North Gauteng High Court has ruled that beaches must remain closed. This is the second ruling cementing government's decision to have some beaches shut down from the 16th of December until the 3rd of January. AfriForum's legal team say they are disappointed with the judgment. Yesterday, the Western Cape High Court ruled against the DA's case to reopen beaches. The party's leader, John Steenhuisen, says he's proud the DA fought for the people of the Garden Route whose businesses face ruin. And right now, we'll get some reaction now to AfriForum's legal battle. That's their legal representative, Daniel Eloff. Daniel, a very good morning and thanks so much for your time. So is this where you're going to leave this fight?
Yes, at this point we'll leave it where it is. There's no point, logistically speaking, to appeal this case, considering the fact that the closure of beaches only stretches until just after New Year. So I think we echo the same as what John Steenhuisen said. AfriForum is quite proud that we've maintained our record for fighting for South African civil rights during the lockdown period, and we rest with what the court held today in its finding.
All right, and I suppose many people would sort of agree with you on some of your points when you first took this to court, is that if people can't go to the beaches, and most people feel, experts say it is sort of safer outside in an open space, that's where you should be if you have to be in a crowd, but this is going to lead people to shopping malls, to indoor spaces, so in that way many might understand your argument. But when it comes to those particular holidays, those particular days where beaches have been closed, we know that sometimes South Africans can be very badly behaved, especially on those days, especially on on the beaches, on the beach fronts as well. We know the day after we're cleaning up liquor bottles, and inhibitions are lost. So was there not some point to that? Is there not some understanding as to government's actions, especially on those celebratory days?
Yes, well, it's one of the arguments we raised in our matter yesterday. Is we said that one of the less restrictive means that should have been considered by government is to apply the same measures that they're applying, for example, in the Durban beaches all along the entire coast, to say only on these particular festive days that the beaches remain closed. And that would have, we believe, been a better balance between the rights of business owners and people along the coast, compared to the government's responsibility to protect people from COVID and the transmission of COVID-19.
All right, so you would have been okay had those beaches only been closed on those days?
Yes, it was what we did argue that yesterday in court. Again, the point is we acknowledge that this is a polycentric issue. It's something, it's not an easy task, and government really has a major responsibility on its shoulders to try and balance all the various interests. And we believe the approach they followed with the Durban beaches might have worked well in other areas as well. It would have worked in the Garden Route. It's what our clients in the Garden Route and the business owners of the Garden Route also said. But the point of the case is, and the role of our courts are not to necessarily determine what is the best option for government to have considered. The role of the courts is merely to find whether or not government acted rationally. In other words, did government is there a rationale between what government did and what they're trying to achieve? And the court held there is, in fact, such a rationale.
Well, Daniel, who's your main concern for here when you actually took this to court? Is it about the sort of larger safety of South Africans? Is it about particular businesses or business owners? Who exactly were you trying to help with this action?
Well, I think it's interesting because in this case, we were arguing both on the health safety side as well as the economic consequences side. We've seen throughout lockdown that often these two aspects are in competition, or at least there's a tension between the two of them. But we honestly do believe, like you mentioned earlier, that beaches are quite a safe outdoor space for people to be in. It's somewhere where the risk of COVID-19 transmission is quite low. You're 20 times more likely to get COVID-19 in an enclosed space than you are in an outdoor space. So in that, on that front, we were definitely arguing on behalf of the safety of South Africans. And also we are concerned that people are now flocking to shopping centers and into restaurants. And in fact, they're just sitting along, the promenades of beaches at the moment and just not physically with their toes in the sand. And we believe that's more of a grave risk from a health perspective. But then obviously there are also the economic consequences. We've seen a study about 2 days ago that said that 50% of online reservations were cancelled the 2 days after the announcement that beaches were closed. So there really is, we believe, a link between the decision to close beaches beaches and the economic consequences that this area and the Garden Route and the Eastern Cape Coast are now facing.
Well, Daniel, I've been speaking, just to people in my circle and neighbours and family, and some people, some of them are of the opinion that, we should just have gone back a couple of steps to a harder lockdown, saying, the president should have maybe stopped interprovincial travel. We should have done this a while ago, and if we do it now, it's going to be too late. But would AfriForum support something like that, considering just where we are with numbers, considering that, yes, we are in a dire economic situation, but this is not going to make it any better if we have to do this at the start of next year? Would AfriForum support something like that if we had to go down to a harder lockdown in the country?
Well, firstly, I can't directly speak on AfriForum's behalf. I'll have to get instruction as their attorney. But what I can tell you through the entire past 8 months is AfriForum welcomes any rational, lawful, and equitable action to combat COVID-19 while simultaneously ensuring that the livelihoods of South Africans are protected. It is a fine balancing act between saving lives and livelihoods. I think it's important to know that AfriForum in no way denies the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic. We can just look around us and we see it. We just believe that, firstly, when government makes decisions, they should do so on a rational basis, and it should be supported by evidence, and there should be a public participation process. We need to talk to the people who are affected by the decisions of government. But then secondly, while we try to protect South Africa from COVID-19, we need to protect South Africans from the economic cracks that we were already aware of before COVID-19. And I think that's the important point. COVID-19 has not necessarily caused cracks within South Africa. What it has in fact done, it's highlighted the existing cracks that we already have, economically speaking, socially speaking, and politically speaking. And I do believe government, taking hands with organizations like AfriForum, with major opposition parties, can effectively manage this pandemic to ensure that both lives and livelihoods are saved.
Thanks very much there, Daniel Eloff. He's AfriForum's legal representative there.